about the transfer, that it's another injustice layered on her ongoing unjust and wrongful detention. He said further, quote, ensuring the health and welfare of US citizen detainees in Russia is a priority, and we will continue to press for fair and transparent treatment for them all. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre also issued a statement early Wednesday morning. Her statement read, quote, every minute that Brittney Griner must endure wrongful detention in Russia is a minute too long. As the administration continues to work tirelessly to secure her release, the president has directed the administration to prevail on her Russian captors to improve her treatment and the conditions she may be forced to endure in a penal colony. Griner's agent, Lindsay Kagwa-Collis, said her team remains in close contact with the US government and the Richardson Center, which is a private organization run by Bill Richardson that works to bring detained Americans home. Both the State Department and Richardson, who's a former US ambassador to the United Nations, are using all available resources to determine her whereabouts, ensure her safety, and bring her home. US officials have said they made a serious offer to trade for Griner's freedom in June, but have not yet received what they consider to be a legitimate counteroffer, which the White House reiterated in its statement Wednesday, despite what it called additional attempts. Officials have said they hoped Russia would be more inclined to negotiate in good faith once the Tuesday midterm elections were over, knowing that Vladimir Putin's government would not want to give President Joe Biden a potential political victory. So they're playing a game of international politics, and of course they're very aware of what's going on here in the United States. US officials declared in May that Griner was being wrongfully detained. Even then, they called her trial and her appeal attempt political theater. So, terrible situation. Brittney Griner still being detained is absurd. We know that this is an issue that's really rooted in gender injustice, because think about the pay you get in the NBA. We don't have LeBron James going over to play in leagues in Russia because he makes a very high salary. Now, members of the WNBA who are playing sports every single day, doing the same amount of training, the same amount of games, yeah, they are paid far less. And so they have to go to Russia to participate and play basketball in Russia for additional money to supplement their income because they are not paid enough. So Brittney Griner would never be over there if they were paid pretty much the same. So we have to remember that this is an issue that is rooted in gender injustice. And there are many people in the WNBA who postpartum play great seasons and come back their first game postpartum after having a baby and have a double-double game. I mean, you could argue that the WNBA in that situation has a much harder game to play than the men who are paid far more. And it's insane that she accidentally brought in a little bit of weed in a weed pen when she packed her suitcase in a hurry. I mean, this is not like she was intentionally committing grave crimes. This was not a violent crime. Nevertheless, she is currently in a Russian penal colony. Dina?
You know, it's a really sad situation because obviously it was connected to Ukraine and what was happening then. Not even so much that she was arrested, but that because she was so high profile, I don't think she would normally have been arrested. Because the fact is, she was coming to play for a Russian team, which would have made her like an invited guest, right? It was like an honor for them to have her come. And for them to then arrest her, obviously they only did it because of the breakdown in communications. But it is true, I mean, everybody should know, like for as divisive as we are as a country, we do have a fair justice system. I mean, sure, we can make improvements, but you have certain rights. And when you travel to other countries, there's quite a lot of countries in the world that have extreme crimes for bringing in an amount of drugs, and you don't get the kind of justice system that we do here. And it is, you are putting yourself at the mercy of whatever government you are traveling to. And we should kind of all be aware of that because this is really unfortunate, but there's actually other Americans who do get caught up in kind of the extreme justice systems in other countries when they travel.
Yeah, and thankfully, Brittney Griner's someone that we know because of her status as a WNBA player. But there are a lot of people who make this same mistake traveling to other countries that have stricter laws on certain things you can bring in that you can have, certain things you can do in the United States that you can't do overseas. And it's difficult when you're crossing borders and those borders represent a new jurisdiction legally. You've got to be very careful. A sad situation, and I wish there was just the kind of political environment internationally where we could collaborate on systems of justice. But unfortunately, we have the United Nations. Not that we shouldn't have the United Nations, but the way the United Nations runs is whatever states contribute the most resources and military power tends to have the most say over how things go in disagreements between other countries. And so it can affect individual people in very intimate ways when we don't have some kind of international democracy. There are very many issues that require nations to collaborate with each other. There are global problems that nations need to work together to address. And there just needs to be better forms of diplomacy and decision making on the international level, and it affects situations exactly like this. All right, we've got a wrap today. Thank you so much, Dina, for being on with us. It was great having commentary with you. Tell the people where they can find more of it from you.
It was great getting a chance to talk to you about all these things. They can find me on Ask Dina Dahl across all social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube.
Amazing, thank you so much. All right, now we're going over to Senator Nina Turner with Unbossed. Thanks for being with us on Indisputable today. We'll see you next time.
Welcome to the show. We are so glad you are here. We got a great lineup for you. Election updates from all the sides, and there were many sides in this general election cycle midterm. We're sticking up for none other than Michael Render, aka Killer Mike, and all the black men voters. And we've got a top tier WTF neoliberal moment for you. You don't want to miss this. And here to help me bring this on home is the one and only Adrienne Lawrence, and she is a Rebel HQ contributor. Adrienne, it's so good to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Tell us a little bit about what's going on at the Rebel HQ.
All right, so we got some overruled, my segment where I'm addressing a lot of legal things, dropping some knowledge. And this morning dropped a video on a creepy incel who essentially snitched on himself. So there's always a little bit of joy there too.
All right, well then you got to join. Please do. You don't want to miss Adrienne on Rebel HQ. Go there, do that, support her. So good election news and bad. We're gonna have to deal with the yin and the yang, the balance in the universe kind of thing. So we're recapping the midterms, and let's get with the good news first and then the bad news second. Or maybe we should have did bad news first and good news second. Anyway, it's good and it's bad. So here's some of it. In Florida, 25-year-old Florida Democrat secures Generation Z's first House seat. That's Maxwell Alejandro Frost, who focused on issues important to many young voters. That's gun violence, climate change, abortion rights, and Medicare for all. Maxwell is literally in the House. And in Illinois, 23-year-old Nabila Saeed made history. Let's take a look at her tweet. My name is Nabila Saeed. I'm a 23-year-old Muslim Indian American woman. We just flipped a Republican-held suburban district. And in January, I'll be the youngest member of the Illinois General Assembly. You better go ahead on, girl. Preach that sermon. And John Fetterman and Josh Shapiro weren't the only ones in Pennsylvania to have big wins. And we are so glad that they both had big wins, and especially big ups to Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman for doing the daggone thing, letting folks know that a stroke was not gonna hold him back, and really standing in the ready position for otherly abled people as people tried to trash him and put him down. But the voters of Pennsylvania let him know what it was all about. So he is going to the Senate. But guess what? Summer Lee becomes the first black woman elected to Congress from the great state of Pennsylvania. Baby, Pennsylvania was rocking and rolling last night. Make no mistake about it. And we know that Summer Lee was attacked, Adrienne, viciously attacked, both in the primary and she was attacked in the general election. Countless organizations were spending millions and millions of dollars against her, super PAC organizations against her to try to defeat her, both in the primary and also in the general. But she let them know what it was. The voters let them know what it was. And in Maryland, Moore, a Democrat, will become Maryland's first black governor. Wes Moore, the celebrity author and former nonprofit executive, defeated a far-right Republican backed by former President Donald J. Trump. Yeah, all that happened last night. And in New Hampshire, James Rosner is the first out trans man elected to a US state legislature. In the legislature, in the House. And we can't forget about the wonderful, wonderful ballot measures. Michigan, California, Vermont affirm abortion rights in state ballot proposals. Voters in all three states amended their constitution to include reproductive rights, while Kentucky voters rejected. Can I just say that one more time? Bolded, underlined it. Y'all know, exclamation pointed, an amendment that would have said there was no right to the procedure. You go ahead on Kentucky. And then in Maryland, Missouri voters approved recreational pot. While similar ballot measures failed elsewhere, the results brought the total number of states that have legalized recreational marijuana to 21. Literally, let the good times roll. Adrienne?
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of that, for real. I just hope that they actually do something to, help out the people that they may have incarcerated who were involved in cannabis, whether the use, sale, or distribution, since we all know it's a moneymaker and also that is less dangerous than the alcohol that is sold on every other corner. So that's just my thoughts as far as that goes. I do definitely love all of the the changes, the first of a kind that shouldn't be first if we truly got a democracy where people are all treated equally. But still, I will uplift them, and I am excited to see so many new faces, different faces, faces of color, different background, gender, what may have you, and the change that's there. There was no red wave, and I can dig it.
No, I'm digging it too, Adrienne. This is definitely totally good news. And your point about making sure that as cannabis becomes legalized all across this country, both for medicinal purposes and also for recreational purposes, that the people who bore the brunt of the war on drugs are not left out. And that's gonna have to be done deliberately. We're gonna need government to step in and say that it is going to be so. One of my biggest fears that the big tobacco companies, alcohol companies, and other type companies are gonna try to slide their way on in there. They didn't suffer any of the consequences of the war on drugs. And we who are conscious-minded folks cannot allow this to happen. And especially Black communities and brown communities and our allies from other communities. Y'all better go ahead and show on up. And to these elected officials, make it be known that you're not gonna stand for letting these big mega corporations take advantage of the legalization of cannabis. Meanwhile, back in the hoods where people were locked the hell up, that those communities don't benefit economically in terms of ownership. Adrienne, we can't let that happen. That must not happen. We gotta stand firm on that.
Absolutely, we need that investment there for people to be, number one, to have an access to being able to have businesses that are cannabis businesses, putting people at the front of the line for that. Because the thing is, as we know, cannabis became condemned and became criminalized because of racism, because it was Black and brown people who were using it. And so it's been Black and brown people who have disproportionately suffered when it came to its criminalization. So it needs to be Black and brown people who are uplifted the most when it comes to its legalization and its recreational activity and usage. And so that is something, as you've noted, that the government has to step up and do. And it needs to make this wrong into a right.
That's right, correct the injustice, and they can do it. We're gonna make sure that they do it. Now, but with the good comes a little bad. Here we go. In Florida, big win for Ron DeSantis, who could potentially be a front runner in 2024 with the Republicans. Now, we know that former President Donald J. Trump is probably gonna try to not let that happen, but the man won big. The sanctimonious. I don't care what they say. Trump can name some folks. The sanctimonious won big and has an eye already towards 2024. In Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene wins again. Marjorie Taylor Greene is reelected and poised for more power in the GOP. The Georgia Republicans' racist and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories put her on the party's fringes, but she is likely to play a more central role in the next Congress. I bet she will. Over in Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee follows in her father's footsteps. Republican Sarah Huckabee Sanders elected as the first woman governor of Arkansas. And in Louisiana, I hate to say this, I'm going to say it, and I'm not joking. In Louisiana, voters were tricked into keeping slavery alive. Yes, they were, the 21st century, to keep slavery alive. Muddled amendment to clarify slavery ban in Louisiana was rejected by the voters. Adrienne, I don't even understand this.
No, but the thing is it seems like it's right on point given how much Louisiana benefits from prison slavery, from the labor there. And so to be able to put something essentially on the ballot that people don't necessarily understand, that just seems par for course.
It does, and the language, ballot language does matter. I don't understand why they have to put language in legalese on ballots.
Yes.
Why don't they take the legalese, take that legalese and put it into common person's language and put it on the ballot so more people, and that's not just in Louisiana, it's all over the country where these ballot initiatives, you can't make out heads from tails unless you really study the issue. And most of the time you got to call a lawyer just to ask, hey, interpret this for me. It should not be that way. So that's something that folks should work on who care about those types of issues. Oh, we going to Georgia, baby. Yes, we are. Once again, Killer Mike and black men, yes, black men. Michael Render, AKA Killer Mike, is being blamed for Stacey Abrams' loss in this second showdown between her and Kemp. So the rematch between Abrams and Kemp was 4 years in the making. It was a hard-fought battle, and Georgia voters have decided once again to stick with Kemp. Let's revisit some of those highlights from this race. So Governor Brian Kemp had been seen as the favorite in the race for months, with Abrams unable to capture the momentum she experienced in 2018 and hampered by broader voter discontent with Democratic control of Washington. The victory reasserts Republican control of the executive office in Georgia, just 2 years removed from Democrats winning both of the state's US Senate seats and President Joe Biden becoming the first Democrat to win the state since Bill Clinton in 1992. This is coming from CNN. Kemp's victory is a clear sign that economic arguments made by Republicans were more powerful in 2022 than Democrats' focus on abortion. So it is very clear, and I agree with Dan America on this, who reported on this for CNN. It's clear the Democratic message, along with other variables, contributed to Kemp's win. But instead of focusing in what motivated or did not motivate what led to Abrams' loss or defeat, some folks have doubled down on blaming black men and Killer Mike, AKA, or Michael Render, AKA Killer Mike in particular. Michael Render, wait, he's to blame for her loss. I don't know, then maybe he should run for president in 2024 since he got all that power. He got all the smoke. Yeah, maybe he should do that. Now, here's a thought for the Democrat. The GOP would have been less successful running on divisive wedge issues if the Dems had leaned in harder on policy and messaging on correcting the imbalances in our economic system that impacts the 98% of Americans. Attempting to use abortion as the silver bullet instead of part of an economic chain was not wise, and it showed in the elections throughout the country, not just in Georgia. This was not just about Stacey Abrams' race. Now, let's look at how voters in Georgia, including black men, voted, shall we? Yeah, let's put up this graphic. I want everybody to see this. So the Georgia governor's exit polls by gender, males 47%, females 57%. What I want to go down to, so we have 51% of the women voting Democrat, 40% of the men, and for Republican side, 58%, 48%. Kind of slightly close, but let's go ahead, baby, and look at the race category. That's where I want to get to the good stuff. 74% of white folks voted for Kemp. 90% of black people voted for Stacey Abrams. 55% of Latinos voted for Abrams, 43% voted for Kemp. On the Asian side, 54% voted for Abrams, 46% voted for Kemp. And then the other category, 47% to 47%, pretty equal. Now, if we break this thing down to race, 74% of white folks, right, voted for Kemp. 79% of people of other persuasions voted, because I hate to say that non-white. Why are we basing everything on that? Other ethnic and racialized groups. So why are people blaming Killer Mike and black men? So my stunt double had something to say about this. Let's put up what she had to say about this. Then stop blaming at Killer Mike and black men in Georgia for Abrams' loss. The black community overwhelmingly voted for Abrams. There really was not much difference between black women's vote and the black man vote. But you know what? Michael Harriet laid this thing out. Let's go ahead and put this up. According to exit polls, Abrams had more support from black men than Dems had nationwide. In fact, if every single black male Kemp voter had voted for Abrams instead, she still would have lost. Turns out the black male voter problem was a lie. It was white voters. It always is. Brother Harriet, you better lay that down. Mic drop. Really ain't much more to say, but I am gonna keep going on this. Laid it out. Let's see what Teslin Figaro had to say about this. She laid it out as well. She said, so why y'all rather blame Killer Mike instead of the GOP that invested in 30 GOTV centers with over 20 targeted just in the Latino community, plus Biden, Obama et al. Endorsed Stacey Abrams. So according to y'all, Killer Mike forced millions to vote for Kemp and has more power than Obama. Oh yeah, inquiring minds want to know. And as I said before, baby, if that is the reality, run, Michael, run in 2024 because you are powerful indeed. And then Miss Marchese Chisholm, she is a nurse, she is an activist, she's a civil rights fighter. Her grandparents, like through her line, were in the civil rights movement. Let's see what she had to say about this. She said, how many white Democrats crossed over and voted for Kemp? That's the elephant in the room. This has been happening in the South for a long time. When is the Democratic Party going to address this problem? Miss Chisholm gave us the truth in the river moment. And the truth in the river moment is this, as my grandmother used to say, you can put truth in the river 5 days after lie, truth gon' catch up. That is what is happening here. Yeah, let's put up this, well, Adrienne, jump in here. I got one more graphic I wanna show, but yeah, how you feeling about this? The blame on black men and Killer Mike in particular.
It's so typical who our society decides to go ahead and scapegoat, who it's not going to hold accountable and call out. And this is exactly how it works. The fact is that white people overwhelmingly decided to uplift Kent as opposed to Abrams, who had more hopeful thought and inclusivity in her leadership and the way in which she wanted to take Georgia into the coming years. Yet white people are still pushing to maintain this sense of whiteness. The thought that there's potential equitability, anything that would have brought some equality to the platform, that is what they are afraid of. Because when you built your identity on the thought that you are better than others or that you are afforded to certain opportunities that others don't have, the thought that those other people could get those opportunities, oftentimes people will respond in ways to shut that down. And it's so incredibly sad because it's people making votes against their own best interest. And of course, the way our society is structured, they're not even facing any accountability for that.
None at all, because go ahead, just blame black voters for the felons. Let's go back. I want to go down memory lane just for a minute. Let's go back to 2016 because the same patterns, Adrienne, is the same, where black folks overwhelmingly came out, did the daggone thing, but our other sisters and brothers went a different way. So here we go. In the 2016 presidential election demographic, this is coming from BBC News. We got 58% of white people voted for Trump, 8% black. On the Hispanic side, 29% voted for Trump. Asian side, 29%. The other, 37%. As we can see, overwhelmingly, just like in the Kemp race, put the blame where it belongs for Kemp winning re-election and also for Donald J. Trump being the president of this country once upon a time. That blame is certainly not on the black community. And one more graph before we leave, just for fun. Are you female, are you male, or are you female? This is the Donald Trump versus President Biden now. Male, 53%. Female, 42%. Now the kicker, the sweet stuff, or maybe it's a little sour. Here, what is your racial or ethnic heritage? 58% white, right? We see that, y'all see that in real time? Black folks overwhelmingly, 87%. Hispanic community overwhelmingly 65%, Asian community 61%, people in the other category 55%. So we can see that people of color, the coalition, voted overwhelmingly for Biden versus our white sisters and brothers. I often talk about, Adrienne, my staff, one of my staffers reminded me, I always talk about the black people need to have a family meeting. Look like white folks need to have a family meeting too.
Absolutely.
We got to decide what kind of country we want to live in. So the moral of the story here, stop blaming black men. They came out to vote, they did the daggone thing, and for the love of God, stop blaming Michael Render for the loss in the state of Georgia. The Democratic Party needs to look in the mirror. Look at how you ran the race. whether or not you reached out to Black men and their needs. Obviously, they still voted anyhow. So stop blaming them. And Michael, run, 2024. I'm expecting it because you are all powerful. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own Black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that Black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger Black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Welcome back. You know what time it is. Viewer comment time. So we're going to our TYT members. Connor says, after staying up late night watching the election coverage and being up early with our newborn son, I felt like I was about to crash. But as soon as that unbossed intro kicked in, I'm feeling wide awake and ready to keep going. Keep going, Connor, baby. That baby needs you, so you gotta keep going. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And on Twitch, Marley says, two of the most amazing ladies. Love you, Nina and Adrienne. Adrienne, I think I need to read that just one more good time. Just one more good time. Marley says, two of the most amazing ladies with an exclamation point. Love you, Nina and Adrienne. Well, we are sending that love right back to you, baby. And on YouTube Super Chat, Earth Creature says, oh, I love that name. Earth Creature says, big love for Nina Turner. Earth Creature sending that big love back and sending that love back to all of our subscribers, all of the people who help us do what we do on TYT. It's why we can be independent. It is because of you. Thank you for what you do, boo. We love you. Brittney Griner, you know what I'm about to say. We need to send love to her family, lift her up. There were headlines that indicate that she is going to be transferred to the penal colony, which the conditions at that penal colony is even worse than the place that she is in right now. We must not only keep hope alive, quoting the great Reverend Jesse Jackson, but we must keep action alive and keep pushing this administration to do all that it can to help bring Brittney Griner home. Hashtag we are BG. If you are on social media, that is what her family is asking us to do, to show solidarity for her and also for them. And do not forget, we at TYT, we're raising money to help our sisters and brothers and family and friends in Jackson, Mississippi. If you want to be a part of that, go to tyt.com/relief. That is tyt.com/relief. Former President Donald J. Trump had a temper tantrum. Watch this.
Tonight, win or lose, the results for Republicans, how much of that will be because of Donald Trump?
Well, I think if they win, I should get all the credit. And if they lose, I should not be blamed at all, okay?
Well, this is one of the rare moments that the man told the truth. He's just being who he is. If they win, it's all about me. If they lose, I had absolutely nothing to do with it. You can't fault the man. He telling the truth right there. So behind the scenes, Trump advisors, let's put up this headline, tells CNN Jim Acosta, Trump is super pissed and screaming at everyone over the humiliating midterms. Yeah, he's madder than a mofo because that red wave did not come to pass. Now, other high-profile Trump candidates that lost or are losing, let's put them up. We want people to see that as well. In PA Senate, Dr. Oz, he lost. PA governor's race, Doug Mastriano lost. Michigan Governor Tudor Dixon lost. And for the Michigan Secretary of State, Christina Carmel lost. New Hampshire Senate, Don Bolek lost. Arizona Governor Carrie Lake is trailing to, we can't call it yet. And then in the Arizona Senate, Blake Masters trailing. That's coming from the New York Times, NBC News. So we still have some races to watch. I can understand why President Trump was making that ugly face because the wave did not happen. He's reportedly blaming everyone but himself. No surprise there. Trump is indeed furious this morning, particularly about Dr. Oz, and is blaming everyone who advised him to back Oz, including his wife. I just got paused right there for a minute. Yeah, including his wife, describing it as not her best decision. So now it's the wife's fault. Adrienne, come on in here. I just can't with this man most of the time, but this one takes the cake. It's her fault.
His mentality is so raggedy. It is funny that the only red wave was probably the ketchup flying across the room in his home. But it's like this man, he just does not take any responsibility for any decision he makes or anything he does. And it really speaks to the GOP. And I really think that they really overplayed their hand in this thought that they could use fear mongering, they could use racism, ethnocentric, all these things that they tried to pull out thinking that it would be enough to get enough voters on board, and it's clearly not the case. And it's funny because as you were reading the names there and kind of you were struggling a little bit with, I was thinking, what does it matter? We ain't gonna see them again, they lost. All I know is you loser, that's your name. That's all it is. So I don't know. Thank you, it's like, I don't know what your name is, but I know what you are, so that's all it is. These people, it's raggedy, all of it. But I hope they enjoy it, spending a bunch of money.
Yeah, they did, but they lost. And there are people pushing Trump to reschedule his announcement. We all know that he is rumored to be scheduled to announce that he's running again in 2024. There are people pushing Trump to reschedule his announcement next week, and several R's have text asking whether he will, but it's risky and would be acknowledging he's wounded by yesterday, something that some of his advisors insist is not the case. They might be right because it's all his wife's fault. We understand that now. I'm glad he let us know whose fault it is. Even Lauren Boebert faces an unexpectedly tight race. Yeah, right now. All of that Trump love, or Adrienne, as you said, the ketchup going around the room. And Trump's other high-profile, high-level endorsement, Herschel Walker, is headed to a runoff because in Georgia, you need over 50% of the vote to win. You need 50% plus one, as Dr. Ritchie was explaining last night in our election coverage. That did not happen, so a runoff is going to take place. Now, this race should have never been close in the first place. Let me just say that I'm talking about the Warnock Walker race. Should have never been this close. And you know why? Because if neolibs had to focus their time and attention, they knew that this moment was coming. They knew that Reverend Senator Warnock, Preacher Warnock, was going to have to run again. They knew this. This wasn't a surprise. So instead of spending all the time and money trying to hurt and deep six freedom fighting progressives, Yeah, myself included, and some others, India Walton, all kinds of folks. Instead of spending money and time and attention on that, they should have been focusing in creating a stronger foundation to ensure that Senator Warnock remains Senator Warnock and that he wouldn't have to go into a runoff. Instead of spending $43 million and a little change on helping the worst Republicans running for office make it through their damn primaries so that the neoliberal would have an easier candidate to run against, had they invested some of that money in helping Senator Warnock, maybe, just maybe, I said just maybe, he would not be facing a runoff. How about that? So the neoliberals are to blame for this situation that Senator Warnock finds himself in because they decided to play games with that money. I remember when they did something similar in 2016, amping up, Adrienne. They wanted Trump to be the candidate so bad. They wanted him to be the one for Clinton to run against. And guess what? Sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. And they got it. And that helped Trump become the president of the United States of America. They learned nothing from that. Then they boosted the worst of the worst among the Republicans, helped them fools get through their primaries. Took their eye off the ball, Adrienne, with Reverend Warnock. And this is a shame that he has to go through this. But here we go. That is what happened here. I'm sighing deeply, but I'm just not, we're gonna move on to the next one, Adrienne. I am really very upset about this. Obviously, people can tell.
Oh, absolutely. And especially Herschel Walker he is just such a bottom feeder. And the thought that he is anywhere even, he's not even on the same level. He's not even in the same game as Warnock. And yet now there's a runoff. Get out of here.
Come on.
He really underestimated either the power of the GOP or, as far as I'm concerned, the power of racism in Georgia and how much they prefer not to have an educated black man as opposed to having one that they can control. So I don't know what's going on, but I know that it's damn sure somebody's fault and it could end up being disastrous for us.
Yeah, it can be. When you play games like this is what happens. And definitely the Democratic Party has been playing too many games. WTF neoliberals, speaking of playing games, we got a doozy for you today.
We will now kneel.
Miss Cinema, no.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Yep, check out this tweet that the Third Way put out the day before the midterm elections. You want to talk about a neoliberal group? They are one. Dems convinced themselves that pet policies beloved by left-wing Twitter activists will be broadly popular, even when polls suggest public opinion is mixed at best. Now, Third Way, the neoliberal group, put this out. New polls show party out of touch with voters. Like, they had a nerve to say that, but they are lying, just straight up. So let's break down the language used against progressives in this article. Out of touch priorities, they said. Out of touch ideology, they said. Out of touch values, they said. The saving grace, mainstream Democratic candidates. Really, Third Way? Mainstream Democrats saved the day? I don't think so. Third Way, you're lying. There comes a point when you just got to point out they're lying. So embarrassing considering progressives had several wins yesterday. Let's put this up. Hannah Trudeau, the entire Bernie Sanders aligned wing of the Democratic Party won tonight, from Fetterman in the Senate to the new squad members in the House. Hello, somebody. The progressive wing of the party quite literally flipped its most consequential swing states. How about that, Third Way? Hard to see how this doesn't change Dems' electability calculus moving forward. But you know what? With groups like Third Way continuing to lie, they will find a way to try to explain this away. Reminder, policies that people really want in this country, without regards to their political leanings, what most Americans support: Medicare for all, free college tuition, raising the minimum wage, and legalizing marijuana. Did you hear that third way? I want to bold it, I want to underline it, underscore it, put it in a message in a bottle for you, just in case you don't understand. And let me remind you that 69% of Americans support Medicare for all. 69% of Americans support Medicare for all. Third way, you suck. Let me be the first to say it. Because middle of the way policies get people killed. When they can't afford their prescription drugs, when they can't afford to see a doctor when they need to, when they can't unionize, when corporations are making so much money and robbing the prospects of the everyday person in this country. Third way, you suck. Adrienne.
Yeah, tell them how you really feel. No, but for real though, it's like they coming out pointing fingers every which way, but in a way and direction that aligns with accuracy and facts. And the thing is that there are so many people out there who do want things that are in their best interest, in society's best interest. They want us all to thrive. And so to try to detract from that, it really seems very disingenuous. And to have publications out there pushing that message, it just divides us and pulls us apart, as opposed to has us focus, unite our efforts, and moving forward in a direction where we can do the best for everyone. Just foolish.
Doing the best for everyone. Adrienne, I don't understand why having Medicare for all, allowing people to unionize without being retaliated against because of their bosses, legalizing marijuana, descheduling it, making sure that the people who bore the brunt of the war on drugs, those kinds of things. I don't understand why organizations like Third Way and others would say that the majority of American people don't want that, when it is very clear that they do want that. Third Way, you suck. Let me just say that one more time, just in case you didn't get that message. Police arrest the blind man. Yep, not making this up. This country has lost its ever-loving mind. Watch this.
What's this in your back pocket? I just saw you walking it.
It's a navigational age. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I don't have to give that unless
yes,
I'm
sir. I was investigating.
You have reasonable.
Do you want me to put you in handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
What is your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly. You don't
have you ensured that it's not a firearm?
No, you keep turning so I can't see it. You don't have to be a to me.
Well, you're being one to me.
No, sir, I'm doing my job.
Am I detained?
Yeah, you are. What's your name and date of birth?
It does not matter.
Yes, sir, it does.
Do you have a crime?
Would you like me
Call
to
your
put
supervisor,
you in? He's right here.
All right.
Don't.
Sir, what's the stop you for? For a walking stick. Okay? And it could look like a weapon. She asked you to present it, okay? Now she's asking me for ID. Okay. I don't need the ID unless there's reasonable articulated suspicion that I have committed a crime, am committing a crime, or about to do a crime. Sir, and her suspicion was that you were armed, okay? And she's asking you for your ID.
You won't believe what they did next. Watch this.
Okay. You deserve it.
So what you just watched was body cam footage showing 2 Florida officers arresting James Hodges, who is 61 years old. James Hodges is legally blind, and he spent 26 hours in jail. And for what? Hodges was arrested for resisting arrest without violence after he refused to provide them with his identification, even though he did nothing wrong. It was clear, you saw it, you heard it. The man didn't do anything wrong, and he does have a right to ask questions. And that's what he did. Who's the officer that treated Mr. Hodges this way? I'm glad you asked. That would be Columbia County Sheriff's Deputy Jamie. Yeah, there she is. That's a smug shot if I ever saw one. That's the one. Adrienne.
So this man was very well aware of the law. You have to have articulable, reasonable suspicion if you want to detain someone, show whatever ID, and so on and so forth. And the thing is that that man was not doing anything wrong. This thought that he has a walking stick with him and that it could be a weapon. Have officers ever seen a weapon? It's like they think everything is a gun, but a gun. It is so incredibly exhausting because people are just trying to go on about their lives, walking down the street, and this cop stops them and wants to engage in this, let me show you how much power I have exchange. How embarrassing is that as an officer that you arrested a blind man for a walking stick? Like, get out of here. I just hope that he sues the hell out of that department for discrimination, ADA violations, everything he can possibly sue them for. Even though I know it's gonna be the people that pays, but my God, I want those people to sit in a deposition and justify their actions because it is not reasonable. And if anything, it is actions like that that create distrust of police and also that waste our money and time.
There it is, Adrienne, you mic dropped on that. And creating more distrust among the police make police officers, law enforcement officials less safe. How about that? Because there is a symbiotic relationship between the community and law enforcement. And people forget that all the time. The results per the Columbia County Sheriff's Office. Let's put this up so you can see this or also listen to me read it. The administrative investigation concluded the afternoon of November the 7th. Allegations of policy violations against these two deputies were sustained. As a result of these findings, Sergeant Harrison will be demoted immediately, suspended without pay for 7 days, and will not be eligible for any favorable action for 2 years. Deputy Goldlead will be suspended without pay for 2 days. Both deputies will be required to undergo remedial training pertaining to civil rights. Hello. Immediate action, Adrienne, that rarely happens.
That's right, that's right. She forgot she ain't a white man. So I don't know what she thought she could get away with because they just threw the book at her. They gave her exactly what they should have given her. I would like to see more penalties, punishment like that for the nonsense that officers are often perpetuating out here in these streets. I would love to see that, love to.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It was totally unnecessary. Big ups to that sheriff's department for taking swift action, for watching the video and not playing around with it. The video speaks for itself. It was obsessive and it was wrong. And these two law enforcement officers, they got punished for it. We'll be right back after this.
I'm wearing one of our pieces of merchandise. So the funny thing about the Dragon Squad, and that's what our viewers call themselves. That's the name of the group, but every individual chooses their own name. You might have Cincinnati Dragon. You might have Harry Potter Dragon. We have a Grandma Sunshine Dragon is one of those that I remember. These are people that like to have an element of themselves, their lives, what's significant to them reflected as a part of the community. But the concept of the Dragon Squad is just something I threw away as a joke. I was mocking the Proud Boys, these like right-wing groups that come up with a name for themselves that they think is cool, but it's actually really lame. And I thought, off the top of my head, I can come up with something that's still kind of lame, but much cooler. And so I threw out Dragon Squad and I just moved on with my life. But everybody liked it, and so they kept it going, and so we've embraced it. And I think again, this was during the period of the pandemic. I think it was sort of nice to have a renewed sense of community, a feeling that you're a part of something when everything seems so chaotic. And as a result of that, we've got independent artists online streaming, making beautiful digital art of dragons. We've got, we've released a number of pieces of merchandise that people love sending us photos of them. And then, by the way, for me personally, people send me, like you can probably see in the background, like a knitted dragon someone sent me. There's a dragon book they sent me, dragon board games they send me. People have done like custom ironworks, making dragon bottle openers. Like the fans are super invested in diamond art and things like that. And so it's great that they send this stuff. Sometime we're gonna have to set up a wall of all of it. But yeah, it's definitely brought the community a lot closer together. The fact that we were no longer in this big studio, I felt a lot more personally attached to people. It felt very immediate. And I know that I personally needed the connection.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
More viewer comments before I go to my exciting guest. Oh, you're gonna be so surprised. Speed Racer says, I call them third way. About third way. You go ahead on Speed Racer, I like that. I'm gonna have to borrow that. I'll give you credit the first time. Third way, that's exactly what they are. On Twitch, Overseer says, oh, Nina, I love hearing you talk. What you say? Got me blushing. So inspiring. And Adrienne, you're so funny. You're both perfect at calling BS. It's something to behold, having you both at the same time. Thank you so much for that, Overseer. We both appreciate that. And on YouTube Super Chat, Epic Shizzle says, love seeing Adrienne and Nina more, please. We promise you, we are going to have more. Adrienne will be back on Unbossed, helping the co-host many times, many more times. We're gonna do that. I'm excited. You wanna know what I'm excited about? I'm glad you asked me. I got the one and only Ben Cohen, co-founder of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream in the house. The only thing better would have been a little ice cream, Ben, but having you here is delightful. So Ben, as I said, is the co-founder of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream, best known for that. He is an activist, he is a thought leader. He was one of the national co-chairs on Senator Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential election, along with myself, Congressman Ro Khanna, and Mayor Yuleen Cruz. Baby, we were the best co-chairs this world, not just this nation, this world has ever seen. It
you
was
tell them, girl.
It was such a delight to co-chair with you, Ben. You know how much I love you. What and another thing, you rail against the military industrial complex. I want you to follow Drop the Mic on Twitter, where they keep us informed about all this outrageous spending on the military industrial complex. Has nothing to do with our enlisted men and women and family and friends. This is all about enriching these corporations that make money off of people's misery, literally making war. So let's Drop the Mic on Twitter. Ben Cohen, what motivates you? The world wants to know.
Well, I think it's probably pretty much the same thing that motivates you, Nina. It's justice. You know, it was great hanging out with Cornell during the campaign, Cornell West, and what he was saying is that justice is what love looks like in public.
Yes.
I really believe that. I think that that's the motivation for most people that are working for justice. It's about love. You know, if we could only get our country to spend our money as if love was the main motivation, it would be a beautiful world.
It would be a beautiful world. There's a song in the Black Christian tradition, love lifted me when nothing else would help. Love lifted me. I totally agree with you. And love is not weak, love is fierce. I think people have a misconception when we talk about love. Love is fierce, love is bold, baby. Love fights. So I'm not surprised to hear that as one of your motivations. What are some of your thoughts about the elections last night? What you feeling?
Well, you know, if you lower your expectations enough, you can actually do fairly decent. So we didn't get creamed. So, you know, these days, I guess that's success.
Lower the expectations. We did not get creamed. There was not a red wave. They kind of rippled a little bit, you know, but it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I was really sorry to see that Stacey Abrams didn't make it. Would have been so beautiful to see her, you know, being elected. But and you know, we're back to the same old with Warnock. Let's hope it goes the same way it did last time.
Yeah, let's hope. And you know, in a previous segment, I talked about that along with my co-host Adrienne, that if the Dems had spent more time focusing in on his race instead of attacking freedom-fighting progressives like myself and so many others, spent more time on his race than spending like over $43 million to prop up the most extreme right-wing candidates running in the primary, Senator Warnock would not be in this situation. So they are overwhelmingly to blame for where he is right now. And I'm with you. I hope that we have a different outcome. Ben, you often told a story, you tell it all over the country, but I remember hearing it, well, I probably heard it from you first one-on-one, but it was a delight to hear it so many times on the campaign trail, especially as we were having conversations about justice and cannabis. And you tell this story about your encounter, what you and I think it was a friend. Can you share that story with folks and why you care so much about making sure that we have cannabis legalization and reform in this country?
Yeah, I was probably 19 or 20, and I was at a beach at night, smoking some pot with some friends of mine, and all of a sudden we see these two big bright lights coming at us, and we say, "Oh, it's the cops!" And I told my friend to eat the J, and the cops showed up, and we're starting to look around. What are you boys doing here? And they found the J. My friend didn't eat it, and they arrested us. They handcuffed us, put us in the car, and took us to the station. And they actually strip searched us, and it struck me, and I realized that we ended up getting a ticket for littering a lighted cigarette butt on the beach, and I realized that we were some white guys that our parents were middle class, and I realized that if we were black guys, we wouldn't have gotten a ticket for littering a lighted cigarette butt. We would have been arrested. They would have thrown our ass in jail. We wouldn't have had the money to get a lawyer to get us out, and we'd have a record, and we never would have been able, Jerry and I never would have been able to get a SBA loan to start Ben & Jerry's, and there wouldn't have been a Ben & Jerry's.
Yeah, I love when you tell that story because you give people so much hope, and you are actually using your imprimatur in that space, fighting really hard. And I'm glad to be part of that along with you and some other incredible people. If I say path forward, you say what?
I'm gonna follow Nina. That's my path forward. We just gotta keep on fighting. When you're confronted with injustice, you got three choices. You can ignore it, you can complain about it, or you can do something about it. And we all gotta be doing something about it. Otherwise, we're complicit.
Yeah, amen to that. And two things quickly, as my producer is saying, you gotta go, we gotta go. I gotta have you back on, but I wanna put up two graphics. These touch me so greatly. I visit your Twitter page quite often, but these two in particular, you have many. But this is like what people see as soon as they get there. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. That is coming from the one and only Bishop Desmond Tutu, who was just such a brilliant humanitarian. Love that, Ben. That really fits the Ben Cohen that I know. And the next one, a country that cannot afford Medicare for all shouldn't be spending tax dollars to maintain over 800 military bases around the world. Again, this is another issue that is near and dear to your heart. You are a humanitarian, you are beautiful, you are brilliant, and I am so blessed to call you friend. And I got to get you to promise that you're gonna come back again on Unbossed.
Back anytime you call, Nina. I'm just following in your footsteps.
Oh, much love to you, the one and only Ben Cohen.
All right.
Much love. Oh my God, I love me some Ben Cohen, baby. You better know it. I want the whole world to know. Now to our Wishbone, highlighting the one and only Dr. Angela Davis. Now, many folks know of her political activism. They link her to, and rightfully so, to the Black Panther Party. She was so much more. She did other things besides that. We know that she's an author, she's an academic, she is a thought leader, was part of the civil rights movement. She was arrested. I mean, actually, she was on the 10 most wanted list of the FBI. Did you hear me? Yeah, she was. need to read her books, look her up. I want to lift her up in this moment. So often we forget to celebrate or to revisit the freedom fighters who are still walking among us. We all know that iconic Afro, baby, when she was in court putting up the black fist, meaning that thing about solidarity, about truth, about justice, about peace, about love. She is the personification of all of those things, and she is still right here with us. So the quote for today from the one and only Dr. Angela Davis, we have to talk about liberating minds as well as liberating society. In other words, free your mind. We gotta educate people, we gotta talk to them, we gotta hear them out, talk with people, not just talk to people, talk with people, expose people to new ideas and to new thoughts, help to liberate minds. Because if we liberate individual minds, then collectively we liberate a society. Angela Davis, thank you, Dr. Angela Davis, for all that you mean to us. We got to continue to give people like you your flowers, your uplift, your love, your recognition while you are still walking among us. You are certainly one of the greatest, one of the best, and we are a better country and a better world because you had the courage and the intestinal fortitude to fight against an unjust system and to fight injustices that still plague this country to this very moment. Sending you so much love and light, Dr. Angela Davis. And to the rest of you, sending you love and light too. You know what I want you to do about this time? I want you to keep the fight. I want you to do what Dr. Angela Davis said, liberate minds so that we can liberate our society and have real love and justice just permeating this place. Can you feel that? Can you vibe with that? Can you hope that? Can you wish that? Can you dream that? Can you see that? Do you have the backbone to fight for that? I want you to keep the faith always, but more importantly, I want you to keep the fight. Until next time, you take good care.